Imagine growing up knowing that at any moment your father could be executed, your kingdom invaded, and your entire family erased because somewhere far beyond your borders, one of the most powerful empires on earth was expanding toward you like a slow moving avalanche. That was the world Vlad III was born into in 1431, in the small principality of Wallachia, a place trapped between Christian Europe and the rapidly expanding Ottoman Empire, which at the time was swallowing kingdoms so quickly that entire regions lived with the constant understanding that their future might disappear within a single generation. And this is important to understand right away, because people often talk about Vlad the Impaler like he appeared out of nowhere as some uniquely cruel historical monster. But cruelty was not unusual in the 15th century. Public torture wasn't unusual. Executions weren't unusual. Political betrayal definitely wasn't unusual. What made Vlad different was scale, intensity, and the fact that he seemed to understand something terrifyingly well. Fear could be weaponized more effectively than armies. His father, Vlad II, ruled Wallachia under impossible conditions because surviving near the Ottoman frontier meant constantly balancing between submission and resistance. If you resisted too aggressively, the Ottomans invaded. If you cooperated too openly, neighboring Christian kingdoms accused you of treason. There was no stable position, only temporary survival, and eventually Vlad II tried securing that survival the same way many rulers did at the time, by handing over his own sons as political hostages. In 1442, young Vlad and his younger brother Radu were sent to the Ottoman court, effectively becoming insurance policies designed to guarantee their father's loyalty. And imagine what that does psychologically to a child, because this wasn't some symbolic diplomatic arrangement where everyone politely pretended the children were guests. Vlad understood exactly what was happening. If his father rebelled, they could die. If political alliances shifted, they could die. Their lives now depended entirely on the decisions of powerful men far away from home. What's fascinating is that the Ottoman Empire itself was not the barbaric wasteland European propaganda often portrayed it as. In many ways, it was more advanced, organized, and politically sophisticated than much of Europe at the time. Vlad received an elite education there. He learned military strategy, languages, horseback combat, political administration. He observed one of the strongest empires in the world from the inside while simultaneously living under the psychological pressure of being a hostage inside it. And somewhere during those years, you can almost see the foundations of his personality forming because prolonged fear changes people, especially fear experienced during childhood. Some people become passive under it. Others become obsessed with control, predictability, and dominance because they never want to feel powerless again. Vlad increasingly seems to become the second type. Then everything gets worse. In 1447, Vlad's father is assassinated during a political conspiracy involving Wallachian nobles and Hungarian forces. His older brother Mircea is captured and, according to many historical accounts, buried alive after being blinded with hot irons. And suddenly, Vlad is no longer just a hostage prince caught between empires. He is a teenager whose father has been murdered, whose brother has been tortured to death, and whose homeland has collapsed into political chaos. This matters because from this point onward, almost everything Vlad does begins making more sense psychologically, even when it becomes horrifying morally. He learns one lesson over and over again. Weakness gets you killed, hesitation gets you betrayed, and fear is the only thing powerful enough to keep enemies obedient. And honestly, the terrifying part is that he wasn't entirely wrong. When Vlad eventually takes the Wallachian throne in 1456, he inherits a country filled with corruption, political infighting, foreign pressure, and nobles who had already betrayed his father once before. So now imagine yourself in his position. You are ruling a fragile kingdom surrounded by enemies while knowing the people closest to you might sell you out the moment it becomes convenient. How do you create stability in an environment like that? How do you stop betrayal in a political system built on betrayal? Vlad arrives at a brutal conclusion. You make the consequences so horrifying that nobody even considers rebellion in the first place. That's where the impalements begin, and this is the point where Vlad stops being merely violent and starts becoming psychologically strategic about violence.